In this podcast, I'll be speaking with filmmakers, creatives, and entrepreneurs, people who've carved out their own paths. And I've no doubt we will speak our way to some pretty interesting and uncommon places. Okay, Archie, whilst I've got you here in Tasmania, amongst your crazy adventures around Australia and soon to be around the world, might as well drop in for a spontaneous podcast, eh?
Let's do it.
My man. So, I was thinking, how long ago was it now that we shot this little short film?
Last year, like late last year, a few months. Can't remember really.
Yeah, I couldn't really remember either. It was either like around 9 months ago, maybe.
Yeah.
We kind of just put it, again, spontaneous. We put a
So
week.
awesome. I remember now, actually, it's coming back to me.
We put a week aside.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have taken us a week, but we just...
Such a fun week though. Yeah.
Just crazy conversation and just, blacking out all my windows.
Yeah.
And,
That was good.
pissing off my housemates and creating a short film.
Yeah. It was good.
I'm not sure if I've sent you... I've made a few elaborations since we shot it. I don't even think I really knew what we were doing. I didn't even really know what story I was trying to tell, but I had a basic story on the...
This idea, right, of being productive and going a bit crazy. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I was calling it, initially, I called the movie Productivity Purgatory, just because that was a term that I heard on the Chris Williamson's podcast, Modern Wisdom, and it was the idea of when people fall into the trap of everything that they do in their life is for productivity, that they never...
Right, and it's not for doing something, it's for the sake of being productive, is that right?
Yeah, never really getting to the goal, it's just productive for the sake of being productive rather than actually just falling into the purgatory, the constant loop of getting there. But I kind of made this and I put up the short film and I put it on Instagram. It didn't get much of a catch. Like, fair enough, the colouring was worse then, and I don't think it made a whole lot of sense. I sent it to my cinematographer mate that from America, the one that I was rolling with in Indonesia last year, and said, "Hey, good transitions, man, good colours, but I don't really know what's going on."
Right.
He said to me.
It's hard.
And it was true, but I think through bringing it back into the editing room and going back over it again, maybe I've made a little more sense of it. And but I'm gonna stop now and I'm gonna press play and I'm gonna get you to watch it and see if it brings back the memories, and we'll progress the conversation from there.
Very keen.
Life is suffering.
We all started from nowhere. I mean,
we
all had bullshit jobs. We all felt like losers.
This was the last Monday morning of your life.
Predictive poetry describes an environment in which nothing that you do is not
creates
for productivity.
a heightened state of focus.
Discipline is the root of all good.
The best way to guarantee to not have the life that you want is to do what everyone else is doing.
You want to hydrate pretty heavily first. The things outside of just waking up. It's a potential difficult game, making yourself stronger and faster and more flexible and healthier. Please turn on as many bright artificial lights as possible.
A podcast that's 15 minutes of sunlight in the eyes improves your dopaminergic response.
You have to wake up. You have to give yourself confidence. You have to give yourself confidence. It starts with that you're like nothing. You're moving. You're exercising. You're alive. Dopamine release can allow a person, whether or not they have ADHD or not, to direct their attention to particular things in their environment. is your life. The only one you've got. And you will never get this moment back again.
It's about disciplining your emotions. It's a number of very important functions of your body. Hop in a cold shower for 5 minutes. After you get out of the cold, you get this huge, long-lasting surge in dopamine.
Scheduling time to do
You've got this one opportunity.
making a to-do list for the day.
Fall in love with
But it
exactly
seems like you guys are living an okay life. It sounds so terrifying. Hasn't even been to break down for that long. Dopamine is too low. Neurons fire more than they should in these networks that govern attention.
That was really cool. Yeah. I loved it so much more.
See, I'm not sure if I sent you the elaboration with the podcast voices in there or not.
No, just the original ADHD one, but they're not. It wasn't as good as this one. This one, like, I felt it. And it really hurt at the end. Yeah.
Before we move on, though, I need to ask you one question.
Mm-hmm.
Why on earth did you... Because I didn't ask you to do this, but why on earth did you slap yourself in the face in that scene?
Well, that made me tear up when I saw that. I saw myself slap myself. I was like, it's really sad.
It wasn't sad at all. Right?
It was cool in the moment.
Yeah. Why?
Because you wake up, I heard, like, one of my friends, they were like, when I wake up, I'm a bit tired, I don't drink coffee, I just slap myself. And you just get
Is that
me
something
going.
you actually do?
I think I tried it, like, and but it was like one of my mates, they did it, and just like, yeah, just works. They were like pretty tough guy, and I thought it would fit really, really well for the scene. I was like, it fits even better with this character, who's, yeah, actually, maybe I did when I took myself like so seriously, but yeah.
Here's what I saw it as, man. And here's what I think it was, if I speak on behalf of you. So, are we good? I think. I'll just chuck the put it back on.
There we go.
So wait to talk so it doesn't mess up the sound.
Easy.
You were just committing to your job, Archie.
Yeah.
You were although we got distracted with lots of conversation, when Jackson was here, as helpful as he was, we were getting quite distracted. We were just in a fantastic little environment.
Just chilling.
Talking about all the
Yeah.
self-help podcasts.
Yeah. A little debate you guys had about like rich man, poor man, poor man's mindset.
Yeah, just trying to just bounce off each other in a positive way. It was awesome. And,
Yeah,
we
it was
didn't
so
get a whole lot
fun.
of work done, but
We drank a lot of coffee.
It's fantastic. We should have done a podcast in the middle of that. Would have been awesome. But
Yeah.
when the role came on, Archie, you were there to work, and you were really, really putting yourself in the role. You were psyching yourself up. You were getting in that cold shower. You were screaming. You were doing the workout. You were committing to the role, and and that's what you would expect. What I'd expect a good actor would do is commit to their job.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's just so enjoyable. Yeah, and that's what makes a good actor. Someone who just really, really loves being there. Is not being there for some other reason. And then if you're there for some other reason, or that chatter starts, and you can't act anyway, I find.
So it's been pretty clear to me, you know, for the year or so, maybe a couple of years that we've connected again in our older life and become friends in our older life, that acting is quite a serious aspiration for you. If you speak, where did that come from, and what is your history in acting? You're the Bernie boy.
Yeah, that's
What
funny.
is the Bernie boy's history in acting?
I used to love, I ride my bike home from school along the highway, and I used to love just like, it sounds weird, but just like talking to myself and like kind of like playing voices and stuff like, and that was like really fun. And then I don't know, I did like a play here, and I was like, oh, that was really cool.
Whereabouts was the play? Here in Burnie?
Yeah, at my high school. I remember I did my, I joined this drama class. Everyone's like, oh, they've been doing it for years and years. And I did my first performance at the Burnie Arts and Function Centre. And I go up first. Like, I'm like, whoa, that's pretty scary. I'm the new guy. And
You got first, did you say?
well, actually, I went up on stage first.
Oh, okay.
And then I got first. And it was crazy.
Awesome, yeah.
I was like, blew my mind.
Nobody could follow you. Everybody choked afterwards, or what?
It was just the funnest thing ever.
Yeah.
Being up there on stage in this character. And I was really like, it was, I don't know if it wasn't like the best acting, but it was just so cool being as this other person. I don't know, I felt like I kind of lost my sense of self there. And then, that was cool. So I was like, wow, that's really enjoyable. I got lost and distracted on a few other pursuits, but I always had this like ambition that was, I don't know, a bit too egomaniac or that sort of thing. And I don't know, found more beauty in it nowadays.
Yeah, and where do you aspire, or at least where do you hope? How are you looking to develop this aspiration? You said you got lost in a bunch of things. You've done a bunch of cool things. You know, you were taking soccer pretty seriously.
Yeah.
There for a number of years. I know that you were quite a talented young athlete. What was your best Bernie 10 time that you ran?
It's like 38:52.
That's crazy.
It was cool.
It's amazing. My very, very fittest, I got 1 second under 40 minutes. Look at us hyping ourselves up, but
Sick.
Well, I'll never get there again, I don't think. Yeah, as much as I aspire to stay fit, but a bunch of, some athletic aspirations, and you went to Sydney recently. You were doing well in sales, I hear.
Yeah.
There was a moral problem there or something.
That was cool. Yeah. So I finally I'm doing this job search in Sydney because acting in Sydney that would be much better. But then I need a job, and I find this one job that I accidentally applied for, and it's just talking to people in the street selling charity, and that seemed pretty cool, pretty laid back, and I get paid for it. And then I go there, and I'm so motivated, and I'm really I can be this outlandish person who's talking to people. This is so good along this self-help line of, you need to get better at socializing so I can do this, which is the whole problem with socializing when you think about getting better at it or judging anything.
My man just wants to be outlandish.
Exactly. These salespeople, they're pretty crazy. It's like their whole life, and they basically don't really care about anyone else but making the money off these of the people that they meet, and they pretend to be friends with them, but really they just want that credit card number at the end of the day. But I really wanted to do a good thing because it was going towards charity, and I was there around the clock. Some days it'd be 10 hours, and I was doing 6 days, sometimes 7 days.
Were you learning the art of sales?
Yeah. I had a notebook. I'd fill it up. And then within 3 months, I was beating everyone else in this company, right? They were taking it so seriously. My boss was just bragging because he bought his first Porsche, and they were Wolf of Wall Street style. I went to one of their parties, and they would try to get me to they were all calling me a pussy for not doing these nangs and shit. Yeah.
The sales team were doing nangs.
Yeah. All together.
And you wouldn't do nangs with them?
No, it's my fucking boss. I was fucked. I wish I had other friends to like at this time, but I was every day at this sales place trying to like, really like do this thing, because then like if I do this thing, then I can get like loads of money. Like one week, right at the end, as I was really like macho, bought myself a little blazer with the little thingies. I was that up myself. And
you were still in the sales job when you came down. You must have taken a week here. I knew you were coming down, and we shot this. You were having a moral dilemma with the sales. Speak to me about this moral dilemma that you were having whilst we were here doing the short film.
The first year of any charity thing that you sign up for, it goes to the company, and they don't tell you that. You have to go for at least 2 years for the charity to make a profit. Otherwise, you're just donating to this sleaze bag. Just try to, I don't know.
I don't think you even knew that at that point, though, right?
No.
You were having a moral dilemma in general. What was that you were feeling? What was wrong with the sales?
Right. So basically, it teaches you to be ingenuine. It teaches you to like be manipulative, and this is a much subtler problem for many, many people. When I go to my acting classes, there's always one person that says, everyone's always acting in some way. We're always doing it, right? We've got these facades about how we do these things, but that's the whole problem. And what you should really do is just not try and just be interested in the other person, and that's how you be kind, right? And they didn't allow you not to smile, so that's the main reason I left.
Yeah. No, it's you're a noble young man, Archie. You're an interesting. How old are you? 20 years old?
19.
19 still.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that was the week, I think, right after I made $1,700 in 3 days. It was crazy. One day.
You've got a Porsche by now, actually.
Yeah, I know, right? That was that was a really, really good move, I think.
Yeah, interesting. You are a deep thinker for a 19-year-old. It's like it was maybe a couple of years ago now, a year and a half, that you gave me this. You gave me this book that's sitting under here. To told me to read Sam Harris's Waking Up, a book on meditation, and with somewhat consistency, I've downloaded the app. I got a year's membership.
Sick.
I've been doing little parts of meditation during my morning routine. Thus, the way that I wrote into this story here. And meditation has been pretty big in your life for a while now. You said I realised that you've done a bunch of meditation retreats. It's basically every time you come down to Tasmania, usually you're going on a 10-day meditation retreat. In Hobart, I think is where you go. What is the go there? What happens at a meditation retreat? What are the rules at a meditation retreat? Why bother?
Well, the logic behind it is that you don't have anything else on your mind, and that's so true. You don't have anything else that you can possibly be distracted with. You're 40 minutes away from any noise of a highway. You don't have a phone, and you're basically not allowed to talk or even look at anyone. And you're just there to focus on your breathing and then your bodily sensations. Just chill out basically and enjoy the free meals. That's cool. And it's really cool. Go down to Hobart. And then you come back and you get all these nice sensations because everything's like kind of euphoric, which is how I started, and it's a little bit different now.
Was it through reading Waking Up and coming across Sam Harris that you were initially enlightened to meditation and inspired to start the process of meditation? Yeah,
so we have a joint interest in the Andrew Huberman podcast. Very cool guy, and he did an episode on meditation, and he just was like, straight up, you can ignore this podcast and just download this guy's app. My dad is like a big recommendation for this guy, and I was like, okay, sounds like a good idea. So I did that, and it just like listen to the meditations and the theory on the bus. But before that, I always was into that productivity thing of like, every morning do 20 minutes of meditation since I was like 14. And then it really made me trust this, and it was really cool when you follow through. And he goes into what is called non-dualistic meditation.
Non-dualistic meditation. That's a concept that I think is foreign to me. I don't understand. Explain what you mean by non-dualistic meditation.
This ties in nicely with talking about the retreats. So with what I just explained, it's you focusing on your breath and your bodily sensations. Not that interesting. It's pretty basic. Anyone can do that. But the whole point is to live like a more fuller life where you can just be present. But it's not. You don't become present by then, all right, I'm going to be present, let me just focus on my breath for a bit, and then I'll be present. That's actually taking you away from being present, because then you're thinking about yourself more, and you're like, I should focus on my breath, right? But then non-dualistic is being aware of the arising of the feeling that you should focus on your breath, for instance. And it's meditating on that. And the way you do that is just it's more chilling out. It's more just resting in that awareness. We were speaking earlier of the exercises such as looking for the looker, where you just literally, it's like, where's the attention coming from? And you try and turn the attention on that
We were
attention.
talking about this before. It's like these concepts, it's like so hard to explain. Impossible, like, almost essentially impossible to explain. But
pretty much.
But it's cool. And meditation is a good exercise. And listening to Huberman, he speaks about almost this muscle that we have in our brain, the muscle that controls attention, and how many studies are coming out to show that meditating is actually a process that trains your attention. People who meditate regularly are more able to target and control and maintain their attention.
Right.
And I haven't been diagnosed specifically.
Oh yeah.
But this. I think the ultimate reason to making short films like this and advertising my morning routine and coming up with these elaborations and changing the name has been me recognizing that I have attention issues. And
interesting. Tell me more.
And that I was always the naughty kid in class for a reason.
Yeah.
And that I've always struggled to target my attention to monotonous tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize, this is why I've always kind of veered off in these tangential ways and kind of veered off and not followed normal paths and kind of got distracted and struggled with basic schooling system and everything, and always obsessively moved towards my interests, whether those interests were positive things or negative things. And I've watched people with this new culture of people now diagnosing themselves with ADHD. Right. It's such a big thing in our day and age that not everybody, every second person, every third person, whatever the number may be, you hear the diagnosis of ADHD a lot now. You hear a lot of people claim that title. I've always kind of heard people and kind of rolled my eyes at them and just kind of, here's another person diagnosing themselves, making themselves a victim with their new problem, and kind of rolled my eyes at them, and never really took it seriously. Until recently, several months ago, I listened to an Andrew Huberman episode, and it was an Andrew Huberman episode on ADHD. I made I'm still not sure if it was a good thing or a bad thing, or a mistake or I clicked into the Andrew Huberman episode on ADHD, and I got about half an hour into that thing. I'm like, oh, God damn it.
Yeah.
And I know now why I was rolling my eyes at everybody self-diagnosing themselves. I know now why none of these people that said they had ADHD. None of them have ADHD. And here's how I know. Because I have all the ADHD.
Yeah. You reckon?
It's all mine.
And where has this led you?
No, it's interesting. It's got me to I don't know, kind of recontemplate my life a lot and kind of
Yeah.
see where some of these issues come out. But the issue is with ADHD, from my bro science understanding from listening to a couple of human podcasts, is that ADHD is just an issue of dopamine. The brain
Yeah.
isn't producing as much dopamine because dopamine has a bunch of roles in the brain, but one of those roles being is that it helps to regulate attention. When you have
Yeah.
more dopamine in your brain, you have more higher levels of dopamine, allows you to kind of target and choose your attention. Oh, I gotta fill out these forms now. I better sit down and wait and fill out these forms, kind of thing. Oh, there's a teacher that's here in class right now, and they're teaching math. I'm gonna sit there and watch what the teacher's teaching, and then I'm going to go there and I'm going to do the tasks. It's like the level,
Right,
the
right.
basic level of dopamine allows you just to control your attention.
Yeah.
But the ADHD mind has a little bit of a dopamine problem. It's not producing as high a level, so it makes the kind of the brain more kind of sporadic and looking around. It kind of goes more likely to go towards its interests rather than its obligations.
That's interesting.
But there's a resolution,
Yeah.
like there is for everything. And the resolution is that you have to incorporate habits in your life that allow you to produce more dopamine in your mind.
Yeah.
Like perhaps getting up in the morning and going out into your gym.
So it's like addictive.
And doing a workout and then meditating and then going into a cold shower and then, getting in and doing your deep work of the morning. If the ADHD mind can find processes to help them produce more dopamine, then they can get everything that they need done. I think that this
And
is
not be like lounging around or depressed.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what the short film was. It's basically just a story of the ADHD mind fighting itself.
All this distraction. And then you can
Yeah.
tell at the end there, it gets distracted. And it's almost like this whole thing is just one big distraction of trying, right? Instead of just relaxing.
In the end, tragically, the distraction won in this case.
That did feel tragic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's really good.
yeah. But it doesn't always have to win, and we have these processes that we can use, and it doesn't have to even be the ADHD mind. But I think being able to produce more dopamine in general and finding ways and habits to produce more dopamine is just a positive way to be more productive. If productivity is the goal.
Interesting. Why is it the goal? And
That's-
not
that's-
say
that's-
enjoyment, right?
That's a good question. Everyone can make their own choice when it comes to that.
Yeah,
Comes to that regard.
yeah.
But moving back to you, I think it's all connected. Your journey into your own consciousness through meditation since 14 years old. You tell me, I didn't realize that. It's a young age to start.
Young age to be insecure enough to search for enough things that'll make you
Whatever it was,
make you happy.
to incorporate such a positive but deep kind of habit into your life.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
But how do you think your exploration of consciousness through meditation and through other things is connected to your acting aspirations? It's so interesting because even after all these years of meditating and speaking about all these moral ideas and about being with yourself and like being like at one and indifferent and detached and all of this, even after all of this exploration in consciousness, you've still decided that you want to act. You've still decided that acting is an aspiration of yours.
And not sit in the cave.
Yeah. How have those things tied together, if at all?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. I'd like to link it back to what we were just saying about productivity. And my old approach to acting was to be productive with it. I'd get my acting exercises up, do my little voice repetitions of R, E, and U, or whatever it was, and then try and memorize the script like a David Goggins, just looking at it, and then I'd go up and read another chapter of Can't Hurt Me, and he'd say, get back down there, and I'd try and memorize it all over again. But I was just like, I wasn't really like this. I didn't feel like an artist. I felt like a robot, and robots aren't that creative, right? But now I've gone away. I've lived in like a hostel for like the last 6 months, and I learnt a lot about just enjoying life, and it sort of had this old spark of acting come up, and now I'm going back to my acting classes, and I find that instead of being productive with it, you can really just find that it's really beautiful and come back to just enjoying it. And I guess this ties back into meditation, because the real point of meditation, Alan Watts has a quote that meditation has got absolutely nothing to do with productivity. You need to get that out of your head. This is paraphrasing, obviously, but and it's pure enjoyment. And that quote always sticks with me. And it relates back to this idea of not trying and just being, because we're just like expressions, not actually, or expressions of the universe, to sound a bit airy-fairy. And then this comes back to acting, right? By us being able to just live as a character. And I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here. But anyway, I would like to make a story here. There were 2 acting classes I've been to recently that really blew my mind. And the funny thing about these acting classes is that it's not scripted and it's not quite improv. You look at the other person, you're like, oh, you're scratching your lip. You looked up, you came forward, and you just state something about the other person. And then the other person would say, I came forward, I looked down, something like this. And you can also say other things, like they would state the moment, like, it's so tense, it's so sexy, something like this. And then you go into this like back and forth with this person. It's not quite acting. You're not putting on a facade of anything. You're just being there. And I come into this acting class with all these like really seasoned actors, and I'm like a little bit intimidated, but I've meditated most of my life, so I should go really well with this technique that's just about not doing anything, just focusing on the other person. I kind of just drop into these states of being with this other person. They teach you just to put this attention ball on the other person. And it was incredible. The first time I meet this stranger, he sits in this chair across from me in front of the group, and having never talked to him, within 10 minutes, I was in a full-on kind of like wrestling match, like pushing him, and I think I was just like swearing at him. This guy that's like, I would look at him and be like, oh, I should probably maybe impress him or something like this because he's older than me. It turns out this guy's just like a primary school teacher and I'm just like out of high school, so then I should probably control myself. But I'm just like, fuck you, fuck you. He's like, fuck me. And that was like so bizarre, but it just felt so real. And that's why I'm so interested in it. The next acting class, this girl sits in front of me, who's a lot older than me, probably, and back and forth. And it's like intimate, and I'm like, oh, that's very kind of a new thing to me as a young person. And basically, it's more and more intimate. They like pause it halfway through the scene to talk about it. I'm like, yeah, this is a new thing. And then it keeps going. And at the end of the round, she kisses me. And I had that urge to kiss her. And I was like, oh no, that's not allowed. And then she kisses me. And that really it was like really incredible to just be able to be like, to let go that much. And that's really what I think acting is all about.
Kissing girls. Yeah.
No, letting go. And and then you can live really fully. And is also why I love acting so much, because I find a really good spiritual practice.
It is so interesting. I got a much deeper insight into acting in Indonesia last year. Mm-hmm. You know, I went over there to... one of my friends down here in Burnie, he brought me over to Bali to shoot his wedding film. Mm-hmm. Over there in Bali, it was a lot of fun. I was able to go to a bunch of theme parks and film his family, and create a little story for him, and then film their beautiful elopement in Bali. But
cool.
As I got off the plane, I'll show this in a video later. But I kind of got my GoPro out, and I put it in my face and said, "Wow, like this new career venture of mine has landed me in Bali. Like, wow, like this is so cool." But like basically I came to in this little conversation I had with myself, came to the conclusion, it's like, okay, I'm going to shoot this wedding, I'm going to do it properly, but I'm going to see what else I can do over here with this camera of mine, and figure out, like, I'm going to go on an adventure, I'm going to see what else I can do. And after the wedding, I just kind of did a bunch of things, and I started talking to people and looking for things, and it brought me to a bunch of places. I won't go into it too much, but it landed me across an American film crew that had flown over to Bali in Indonesia to film a movie, to film a feature film, like a powerful little indie film crew with like big aspirations to create the movie still hasn't been released yet, but I'm feeling pretty optimistic for them. But to create a movie that's like Hollywood level production with like a indie film crew budget and this crazy Floridan director, like the most fastest thinking, fastest talking bloody guy that I've ever met in my life, able to coerce a bunch of very good cinematographers and actors to come over to Indonesia and to film this movie. Like for
Sick.
basically no money, but for the film, like this is going to be like a breakthrough for all of us if we can get it done.
Cool.
It's going to be, we still have to wait and see how it goes, but nonetheless, I rolled across these guys, and I kind of butted my way in, and the next moment I was on their futon at their homestay in Bali, and I'd become their behind-the-scenes director, behind-the-scenes filmmaker for this crazy project of theirs, and I became the documentarian for this American film crew's project.
Cool.
And wow, it's like, wow, how incredible! And the next moment, I'm missing my flight home. I'm booking myself for another 6 weeks, and following this film crew all around Bali and all around Indonesia to all of the most beautiful places to make this crazy kind of fantasy style movie with them. But the point that I'm getting at is that I was in an acting crew. I was in a film crew. I was around them. I was living with them. Like I got an insight into who are these people. A bunch of them were from LA and other places in America. It's like they were actors. I'm like, well, okay, what I got to learn a little bit about what makes an actor. And I might struggle to articulate this, but the conclusion I came to is just that they were just like hyper creative people. Yeah. But instead of like creating with a paintbrush or creating with a camera, like me, they were just kind of creating with consciousness.
Like they're very expressive.
Yeah, they're like, okay, how can I use my mind and my voice and kind of my vision to kind of just like fall into a different realm of consciousness? How can I like embody the idea of this character right here? And you were talking about the process of that exercise where they sat you down at the table and you kind of had to move back and forth with each other. You were calling it wrestling. What I ended up calling it was sparring. Because here's something that I noticed. Some of these actors in their acting roles, you take a bunch of takes and they'd have to get their scene right, and like this would be an amazing moment. Like they would come in and they would have all of their lines rehearsed and everything in the moment, and like, boom, they would get that scene, they would get it right. But one of the things that I found most interesting was the way that they acted and the way that they were kind of living in the midst of their scenes. There was a few actors in particular that they started like embodying these different characters outside of their scenes, outside of their movie characters. They kind of had this little role play going on in the middle of it. And they had like this country western kind of acting role play. It was not a country western movie. There were no country.
This is inside the scene or outside the scene?
This is outside. This is behind the scenes.
Okay.
So they're like rolling, laying outside the scene, waiting for their next turn kind of thing. And they're just kind of like turning themselves into cowboys. They're kind of having fun. They're like playing this little cowboy role. Right. They're like joking around with each other. They're kind of like sparring with each other, kind of going back and forth impromptu, like cowboy acting. And like it became this theme throughout the whole movie. These guys, they were just like kind of sparring with acting. They're just like deciding to like just experiment with their acting abilities. And they were like, they were turning themselves into cowboys on the outside of the scene. It was just like they were just playing. They were just like creating. They were just like, okay, what kind of character can I have fun with? Just to, like to pass the time.
Yeah.
That was a couple of them, you know, and then there were a couple of others, and you know they weren't. It wasn't all endearing or beautiful traits that came from these actors. You know, some of them were quite highly strung and quite precious as well. You know, some of the females there specifically. But it was they were all very creative though, and they were all very. I don't know. It's like they're very manipulative. It's probably not the right word, but just like capable with the way they could target their mind and the way they could play with their consciousness and the way that they could kind of switch themselves into these characters. I'm not sure if that resonates with anything.
Yeah, this idea of creativity and just being in the world. It's like very unanimous.
But the canvas is the world and the character. How does that resonate with you, if at all?
I am curious as to, like, there are a couple like different types of acting I've been reading about recently, and it sounds a little bit like the art of representation, which is, from what I've read, which is very little, on really almost like pretending and mimicking, which sounds like I don't want to say like compare actors, but like a lower like amateurish style of acting. And then maybe I'm curious as to whether you say this is sort of like the beginning production, not to put it down or anything. I'm curious as to what like the percentages of actors that are behaving in this way. Because it's a small sample size. But you say it's quite a unanimous vote.
No, it was just, I'm talking about the way that the role play they were doing in the middle.
Yeah.
That was just them playing, like casually kind of playing in the middle.
That was all of them? Like generally?
No, it was just a few of them.
Yeah,
of them. But I just found it so interesting that when they didn't need to, they still were playing with acting. They were kind of just like doing this basic kind of sparring with each other in the middle of it, and they created like this cowboy western style role play in the middle. It was some of the actors there, you know what? Some of them for sure were quite talented.
Yeah.
They were American, like Hollywood. They lived in LA. They were Hollywood style actors.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, and when they actually came into their role, it was clear that it was much deeper than the little fun, little casual kind of lazy role play they were doing in the middle.
Yeah.
I was just more interested in the way that. I just saw that like
having fun. They're having fun.
It's sort of more than having fun. It's just more that they were just kind of just like. Staying fit.
Sparring.
Yeah, sparring. You know, just sparring on the outside, just playing around with ideas and just playing around with it. You know, just like kind of doing their road work.
Yeah.
Just doing their road work and playing around on the outside. I feel like if you're a creative. It's like why if you are doing more reps, even if they're casual reps,
being able to be silly.
Yeah, they were just doing reps. Somebody who stayed silent and somebody who wasn't acting in the middle we're getting less reps. They're just kind of keeping themselves acting fit. That's what it looked like to me, you know?
Yeah,
they're just like playing around, keeping themselves acting fit, doing their gym work, you know, and it wasn't hard, you know, just like your casual kind of just like, you know, arms day on the outside.
I like that. Although part of me feels like it's something that I would struggle with, like when if you're thinking about acting and being this, it's interesting because the difference between that and acting is that acting is not a social interaction, but that sounds like it is a social interaction. And when it
reminded me of that game that you guys were playing, you know, opposite the table with each other. Yeah. You guys were sparring there as well, right? Wrestling, sparring, you know.
Interesting. Yeah. I would say that's not sparring. I would say that's just being, basically, because you're not trying to do anything. But it's like, I'd say it's almost the opposite of sparring. And these people outside of the scene are just seeing where this goes, this idea of being a cowboy or this scene, and I come back to it, but having fun with that again.
Yeah, and again, I'm coming from a very outside perspective. It just looked like they were practicing something, that was all.
That's really cool.
Whether you call it sparring, whether you call it just being or whatever, they're just like, okay, they're just like getting some reps in. That looks like it's helpful in some basic, casual kind of way.
I would love for another more experienced actor than me to be here right now to get their point of view.
Yeah, and I did, because I was able to, like, in the end there, host these guys for a podcast.
Yeah.
And I offered them this idea as well.
Yeah.
And they said that they'd never thought of it that way, but it kind of resonated with them as well. Like they were just like getting their reps in. Yeah, I think that's what resonated with them. It's like they're just getting their reps in the outside. They're just kind of practicing. They're just staying like acting fit.
That's
just
cool.
practicing. But these guys were, wow, when it came to their role, they were also like throwing themselves up desert hills and off volcanoes and like digging in, you know, and falling on the ground and like in fits and like collapsing in seizures and like, you know, all of these crazy roles. And we were breaking into national parks and just between you and me and the whole audience, but
just quietly.
Yeah, but it was quite obvious to me that these people, these actors, you know, they were talented in a very unique way, and like you would imagine when you think about it, because if everybody could be an actor, there'd be a lot more actors. I feel, because it's quite a sought after position, and you know the best of the actors get a lot of money.
Totally.
Yeah, so they better be talented.
Yeah. And nurturing that.
Yeah. So you're where are you about to go? Where are your adventures?
I completely forgot.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm a little Aussie boy or dude, and I'm about to fly to Europe. What I would say is, for me, the most interesting place in the world, with this rich history of art and building castles. So flying to Paris for a week, hanging out there, and then moving to Germany permanently, or for the near future permanently. And
What do you plan to do in Germany?
Acting is the idea, and see how
you
we
go to
go.
Germany to act. So how does that work?
Right. Well, there's no guidebook for it except that you can book a visa on the guidebook is the German visa consulate of Sydney website, and it says what you need, and then you just go and you get your sufficient proof of funds, however many thousands, and you book a flight, and then next minute you're in another country, which is going to be pretty insane.
Yeah, we talked about this briefly before. I still didn't get to the answer. So you said that you plan to enroll in a acting school in Germany. Was that right? Yeah.
Totally.
What is the acting industry like in Germany, and why, of all places, I guess direct yourself towards a European country to go into a European school, to go into a German school and learn acting? How does that work, and why have you decided that makes sense?
Right. I think I was originally inspired by Mark Manson. In his book, he wrote about his trip to Russia and said how he was like floored by how honest they were. He was having a coffee date with a girl, and she's just, what you said was stupid, and he nearly choked. And he said he got like so high on this idea of being like brutally honest, and I feel that it's quite different to Australian culture of always seeing how the other person is, saying, how are you, even if you don't care. And coming back to this idea we spoke of earlier of being genuine, and how that applies to acting, and also we were talking about sales, I remember. And Europeans, they just don't give a shit, I've heard, about, I know, this being liked and pretending. So that's what I really want to find out more about. He said Russia. I hear Germans are also very honest and very like rigid, which is going to be awesome. Yeah.
So how's that going to work? You're going to hopefully you're going to enroll into a German acting school, and
so I would love to do an update podcast on how this goes. I have to learn the language. I've got 1 year on my working holiday visa. Learn the language, study that. That'll be the next big goal. And then apply for a school and hope I get in. and just go for as many schools as I can. It's a pretty difficult thing to do. Like the ratios for the good schools are like 30 out of 1,000 people will get in. But, you know, there's no reason not to be one of those 30.
What are you doing to prepare for this application? Like you've said that you've had to you're going to have to learn the language. Have you started learning the language at all?
Yeah, so, I know, talking to a few Germans and doing the old Duolingo. It's really fun. And, yeah, just going my heart out with whatever.
Can you say anything in German?
Yeah. Yeah, mostly just basic things. Ich koche, I cook. Du kochst, du cook. Ich drücke meine Daumen für dich. I squeeze my thumbs for you, which means good luck.
Awesome, man.
That's my favorite. I'm so happy I remembered that. It's really good.
It's a start, man. Yeah.
A little bit more, but you know, once you're in the country, which has been the goal for the last few months, because at the start of the year, I had to hitchhike from my meditation retreat in Hobart to my home in Burnie because I couldn't afford the bus. And then I was in Burnie, I didn't like it much. I flew up to Cairns because I called my grandma and she was like, oh, I'll fly you up here. And then that was really sweet. And I didn't like that, so then she flew me down to Sydney, still with only enough money for one night at hostel. Got on the good old Uber Eats and worked away until I can go to Germany. And now in Germany, I'll be there learning the language. What was your question?
Yeah. Well, leading towards learning the language, how does that lead towards application? Like, what's your pathway towards that? You know.
Well, yeah. So all of the courses in German, so I have to learn German from not knowing any German right now, and that would be awesome to have something that you have to pay attention to what's going on. Part of acting is knowing what's being said, and the natives who grew up speaking German, it's just so casual to just speak their language, obviously. So they don't really pay attention to what's happening. One of my favorite things about living in a hostel was that I got to talk to these people who were just learning English, and their conversations, they were just so essential. They were just, no one would say any words that they don't need to say, right? I'd say it's way better English because they're much more thoughtful, and that's what I really love.
Do you think there's maybe the possibility that you might be of extra interest to certain schools, the fact that you are a foreigner, that there might actually be something that they see there, that they actually like the fact that here's someone speaking German that has like a clear Australian accent, whatever on earth that sounds like. But I'm guessing, I wonder if
hopefully I stand out.
You have to figure out a way. But Archie, since I've known you, you seem to figure out ways to do things. You have ways of performing in whatever profession it might be, or whatever. Yeah, any occupation it might be. You know, from the acting that we've you helped me shoot my first 3 wedding films.
Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. You were on for that. We
Thank you so much.
Wow, we worked hard for those 3 sessions. I really didn't know what I was doing.
You worked so hard, like around the clock.
You were working hard as well. You were right there with me. Yeah, we were working hard.
I was just feeding off your energy of hard work.
Yeah, I think we got some good footage as well. I've actually gone back in the last couple of months in my spare time. I've actually re-edited and re-color graded all of my first 5 wedding films.
Awesome.
Yeah, just because I wasn't happy with the level of color grading. I was so ignorant at the time. You know, it's like I feel so often, or if not all of the time, when starting something complicated and starting a new complicated venture, that we're always going to be ignorant. That we're always going to be missing out on things. We're always going to like block that out and ignore it and say, "Yeah, we're right. We're fine. I'm going to be fine. I can shoot a wedding and easy." It's like deep down though, you know that there's so many things, this complex world that I'm missing. And I knew this deep down, but I don't think I clearly didn't realize to the extent that I didn't understand the basic art of photography. I had some kind of a grasp of storytelling, of working with timelines, and I used to have my GoPro and you know, kind of making stories and making video blogs, and I kind of I understood how to work editing software, and I understood how to piece music and clips together to make a storyline, but I didn't understand white balance. I didn't understand, you know, basic exposure,
esoteric topics.
You know, how to really make skin tone look right.
Right.
And all of these little things.
Right.
You know,
you just sent it fully.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Which you know, I was pretty happy with the footage we got for these wedding films, but I wasn't happy with the color grading in particular.
Yeah.
But over a year of hard work, and I've kind of began to learn pretty deeply the basics of photography, and I've began to really appreciate the basics of photography and appreciate photographers. Something that I foolishly didn't appreciate enough, that I really took for granted. The brilliance and the importance of the foundations of photography, and I now look at photographers, like picture photographers, with so much more respect than I did, and that's been an important evolution for me.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, but yeah, I've gone through and I've recalibrated those weddings, and I feel that they look a lot better now. I'm a lot prouder.
It's such a cool journey.
Yeah, for sure. But back to you again. It's like, you helped me out with those wedding films, and you were doing that. You were when we acted, you acted your ass off. Slapping yourself in the face and getting in cold showers.
Sitting on the waterfall for 20-something minutes.
Yeah, we did that as well.
That was good. That wasn't really acting quality. That was just commitment.
You fall into sales, and you rise to the top. You go into the theatre class, and you go first, cool. And you get first.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was luck.
But now you're going to have to figure out the process of like this new goal that you've started to the world. You're in the midst of doing it. Sorry for making you become accountable to everybody who's watching.
Right.
All three people that are watching. But what is your process of figuring out ways to, I don't know, to win or to have some minimal level of success, or to accomplish your goals, to figure out the way towards your goals, the pathway towards your goals? What is the process for you? How do you if I can ask, the process of accomplishing?
I'm not entirely sure how to answer this question. I would think that it would start with just what's beautiful in the world and what is interesting, and I think that comes from taking out everything else. I find that the biggest thing that I got from sitting those meditation retreats is that you get reduced back to zero. There's no more distraction, and when there's no more distraction, then what's left is just accomplishing things. And it's not, you don't have time to label it as an accomplishment or a failure, because you're just so in the moment and going on to the next thing that you're just there, and it feels real because you love it so much.
Get rid of the clutter of something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could label that as like ego, but it's just falling in love with life so much. And no time to even get up and think about drinking a cup of coffee, because you're just so in tune with what it is. You
know what you're doing when you get up in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't think about it. You don't stop to think about a process. When I was crazy into soccer, I would have a schedule from 3:58 a.m. in the morning till 7:58 p.m. at night, and it would be every minute of the day would be accounted for. I'd say that's as far on the system end as you can go. And it got me pretty far. But I was pretty miserable, and I was also in this productivity purgatory of not actually spending that much time practicing soccer, and more just becoming the kind of person that practices soccer and doing everything else in between. And because I thought about it so much, I was just worried that I wouldn't be able to practice soccer. So then when I'm sitting in maths class, because I saw something on Andrew Huberman's podcast about you only being able to pay attention for 3 1.5 hour blocks a day, I'm not paying attention to maths class. Put me in the lowest maths class, even though I can do the higher one, because I want to be this kind of person who can achieve and accomplish things. But when I just forgot about that and I just fell in love with life. If I was in that maths class, maths can be really interesting. It's like a whole new language, right? And it doesn't matter. And you stop clarifying yourself as a kind of person that does these things, which is kind of arrogant that you know what you're going to be and what you feel like, instead of just receiving the things that happen. There's a great quote by Alan Watts again, never be so focused on what you're looking for that you overlook what you actually find. And that's how I define accomplishments.
So on that note, what do you think some tactics or some strategies that somebody can use to fall in love with life?
Yeah.
And do any of these strategies or tactics potentially involve something like meditation?
Right. So right now we're just going to do a guided meditation. No, just kidding. That would be really good though. I mean, when I learned to meditate, it changed my life and I started being much more happy. I would recommend Sam Harris from the Waking Up app with his book that we've been referring to quite a lot.
How can someone get started with meditation?
Oh, well, it's really easy. There's obviously meditation apps and things like that, but you just sit down, you focus on your breath, and that's to train up your attention to then be able to pay attention to everything that you do. You open a door, you're opening a door. You're not doing anything else. And then when you're opening this door, it doesn't stop. Once you open the door, you're paying attention, and now there's no time to be distracted watching a YouTube video about how to do the thing. You're just then going into either relaxing or being in this acting moment. And it applies so much to acting because it's about being and not about trying to be the thing. Some other tips is just to relax as well. I find, if you can just find a comfortable posture, and just come back to your breath, you realize that you're just this expression out in the world, and you keep being one of those creative people, like those actors that you were talking about on that set.
Yeah, to be able to remove the clutter, I really like that analogy, and being able to kind of, take a breath and sit down and not worry about everything that else is going on in your life, and just choose to, just pay attention to the basics of breathing, to the basics of the little sounds that are going around you, to kind of, really being present in the room that you're in, and just like, it kind of has a real therapeutic, like clearly, there's no mistake, there's no coincidence that meditation is such a long-term and prolific practice. It's helpful and it's therapeutic, and it can be very helpful, and it's something that I need to constantly remind myself to, relax and maybe even take some time to sit back and just be, as they say, and there's a lot of science coming out to show that meditation can be very, very good for training your attention, which is something that we can all have some more of.
What life is all about, right? And you can go really deep on that, and you can't exaggerate the benefits, and just be with how happy you can get.
That's awesome, Archie. It was I'm so glad we got to catch up for the short moment you were down, and cool to have a spontaneous podcast here, and
totally.
All the best in Europe, man. I know you're gonna kill it.